Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, we will be discussing 5 things you need to discuss with your partner in order to avoid getting divorced. If this is something that you are interested in, then keep on watching. So before I list the 5 things that you need to discuss with your partner, it's just 5 things that you need to discuss with your partner. I just want to make, a disclaimer. I want to make a disclaimer. So while there is no guaranteed way to divorce proof a marriage, but there are things that you can do to give it the best shot so that you have a good marriage and don't end up getting divorced. There are certain conversations that should be had before getting married and during the marriage. And I have been married now for about 12 years, and these are the 5 things that we discuss on a yearly basis just to help us to see where we are. Because we all know that the biggest reason, the number one reason for divorce is unmet expectations. And if we do not discuss these things, there are no way that you would know the expectations of your partners. And being that we are human beings, we keep evolving. Things change every year. What you wanted at the beginning of the relationship, during the relationship, it changes. Nobody remains the same. So in essence, change is the one thing that is constant and that is going to keep happening in the marriage. So that's why you need to discuss these things yearly. Point number 1. And I have spoken to a few of people that I know that are in a relationship. And one of the biggest things that you would fight about, not fight, maybe talk about, it's never going away, is money. What is money? According to my economics teacher, money is anything that is generally acceptable as a medium of exchange for making payments, settlement of debt, and other business transactions. So the making of it, the lack of it, having too much of it is something that you will be discussing throughout your marriage. So if you are at the beginning stages and you're just dating, it is important that you discuss who is going to be making money and who is going to be controlling the money. If you know, especially if you're a man, forget about the whole gender role or man has to. If you know in your heart as a man that you would prefer to have a wife that works and make money, please make that known at the beginning. Because you don't want a situation where when you get married, you start forcing. Because there are some, I'm not faulting anybody. That's your decision. You want to be a housewife, you want to do. I would never encourage anyone to be a housewife. But if that's your calling, make sure you tell the guy at the beginning, sir, I don't plan to work once we're married. You will be the one making the money. But anyways, like I said, my point number 1, it is money. You have to discuss who's making the money, who's going to be controlling the money, what you're going to do with the money, who's the saver, who's the spender. If you know you like traveling, you have to state that to your partner, like, hey, I would like us to go on family vacation, so that you guys can discuss how to make that work. Because that's what I say, the number 1 thing that people have discussed about in marriage: money. Point number 2, children. So if you're already married, you probably already have your kid. So at this point in time, what you will be discussing is parenting style, how you're going to discipline your kids, who is going to be the main enforcer and who's going to be the supporter. How are you guys going to do the parenting of the kid? Now, if you are just thinking about getting married, please discuss the number of children that you want. The number of children. If you know your friends can only think to discuss it now. And you also have to figure out the lifestyle that you want. So take, for example, I'm going to keep going back to traveling. So if you know you like traveling, and right now we live in a society where vacation has become the main thing. If you're not traveling, it's like something is almost wrong with you. I don't want you to start thinking about, in the future, I'm going to be a millionaire, so I have to, have 10 kids, because at that point in time, I would be able to take care of them. No. you have to make plans with what you're making right now. So if you're making, say, $10, and you know that $10 can only take care of one kid, and maybe at a stretch, two kids, then that's what you should be discussing to have, so you can maintain the lifestyle that you want. Now, in the future, if God blesses you and you decide that you want more kids, then go ahead. But don't plan out right off the gate, I'm going to have 4 kids, and you know your income can only support 2. Does that make sense? Because trust me, that's something that you will be fighting about. And I want people, like, if you are just planning on getting married, there are certain discussions that you have to discuss when it comes to kids. Not everybody is blessed to start having kids right away. So you have to discuss that part. What happens if we have fertility issues? Are we going to adopt? Are we just going to be by ourselves? And if anybody says, you know what, I really, really want kids, is there a time frame that you're giving yourself? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not, I know people like to go, if you're in love with the person, you stay. No, that's why you have to state your intentions from the beginning. I remember when I was talking about getting married with my husband, and I was like, babe, what if I can have kids? And of course he kept on going, oh no, God forbid, why won't we have kids? I'm like, no, I just want to know, are you open? There are fertility issues, you never know. So I'm like, are you open to adoption? And he did say, well, if we find out, because I kept on going, okay, so if we're married for like 5 years and we've not had any kids, what's going to happen? Are you open to adoption? Are you going to walk away? Let me know now. So if you walk away at that point in time, then fine. Well, luckily, we're blessed with 2, so I don't have to find out. But at that point in time, he said he was open to adoption if we find out that we cannot have on our own. 2 point number 3. This is the point that is not discussed a lot. And I feel like people should be discussing that before you get married, during the marriage, in case it changes. And that is, what is your deal breaker? I don't care how in love you are. You better sit down and think, sir, ma'am, if you do this, I will walk. I remember when I was getting married, and then I asked my husband, like, what is your deal breaker? He didn't even hesitate. He told me right there, if you do this, I'm out. But he didn't say he was going to, go. He said we would live like strangers. So he's not even going to give me the divorce. And I said, you know what, if you do this to me, I'm out. I would sign the divorce papers so fast your head will spin. There is no call pastor, call my senior members of my family and discuss, uncle, if you do this, I'm out. I remember I was watching a show. It's like 5 years later. People were discussing 5 years later. And then they asked one of the couples on there. They're pretty famous in Nigeria, Basket Mouth, him and his wife. And they said, what can your partner do that will make you walk away? And I remember the wife going, this guy, there's absolutely nothing he can do. And I was like, please, there's something he can do. Think it very well. And I know right now in our time, anybody, the cheating part, we don't like it. If he beats you, are you going to stay? If he's cheating on you, are you going to stay? No, you are not going to stay. So why are you saying, oh, there's nothing, I love him so much? Pack the love. Yes, you are marrying the person because you love the person. But love can only take you so far, because you need to set things in place to make that love bloom. Because if somebody is beating you, if somebody is cheating on you, if somebody is emotionally disturbing your mental health, are you still going to be in love? Of course not. And that's why I feel like the whole love thing is just an attraction. The staying through the marriages is based off of conversations and rules and regulations that you two of you have set together to live, so that you can live happily. Like, I remember back then when people asked me, what's the definition of marriage to you? And I'm like, marriage to me is two people agreeing to live under the same roof and not killing themselves. That is marriage, and respecting each other. Of course, both people have to have a kind heart for the marriage to thrive properly, because if you're married to somebody who is not kind, I'm not sure if these points will work for you, but you can give it a try. All right, so that leads me to point number 4. What is your communication style? Because we are all brought up in different households. We literally grew up on separate places. So the way you communicate is different from, like now for us Nigerians, I think our communication styles is a little similar, especially those of us that were born in the 80s. Our parents all had similar ways of upbringing. However, personality-wise coming to play. Take for example, my husband is a quiet person, and he's kind of like a sponge. He would soak up and soak up and soak up and soak up. I mean, now I can tell because we've been married now for like what, 12 years, 11, 12 years, whatever 2012 is. We have been married since 2012. But now I can see the sign. If he starts, getting a little mood, I'm like, okay, something is bothering him. I'm going to need to find out what that is later. But at the beginning, he's kind of like a sponge. He just keeps soaking it and soaking it and soaking it. And then one day he's like, and I'm like, sorry, what's happening? So communication style should be something that you discuss. Like for me, when I'm really, really angry, I don't want to have a conversation because at that point in time, I'm not reasonable. I mean, there's nothing you can say. I probably would just be blowing up and just so you don't want to have a conversation with me then. So basically, you have to discuss your communication style, especially at the beginning. Especially at the beginning when you start cohabitating, like living together as man and wife. You tend to not know. And when you're in your honeymoon phase, you don't want to upset anyone. I remember there my husband used to go, his favorite term is, "Yes, my cross. That's my cross." At the beginning I used to think, I was like, oh wow, that's cute, that's romantic. I didn't know that the guy was like storing things in there until like it was like. So basically, you have to discuss your communication style so you know how to proceed. Okay, if you're fuming, do I keep pushing or do I wait until you calm down? And are you going to come to me and have that discussion? There are some families that I know that say, oh, we're not going to go to bed angry. For me, I need to sleep on it because whatever I say when I'm angry, I'm not responsible for it. Do you understand? And there are some people that are like, oh no, before we go to bed, we must settle it. Whichever works for you. Discuss your communication style. Do you hear what I say? Discuss your communication style because you are gonna need it, especially when you start expanding as a family. Number 5, how are you gonna split the chores? Now, some of you, when you first get married, we the women, we like to act like, I can wash all the whole plates, I can do all the whole clothes, I will sweep the whole house and clean the whole house and da. Honey, guess what you're gonna be fighting about? That same chores. That chores that you were happy to do in year 1. You know why you were happy to do it in year 1? Because there were no children. Once the children start coming in and you have been working from morning till night, then somebody doesn't want to help you sweep house. Problem. Do you understand what I mean? You're going to have problems because why? Because then at that point in time you're tired. So that's why at the beginning and even throughout if at the beginning it's just the two of you and you're still fine doing it, of course go ahead. But when the kids start coming in, and that's why I say marry a kind-hearted person. Because if you marry a kind-hearted person, as when the family starts to expand, it is only natural for them to want to assist. But if you marry somebody who's not kind-hearted, who does not have in his head to add 1 + 1 together and see that my wife is stressed taking care of all these children, let me help her and wash plates, or let me help her and vacuum this place so that the house can be tidy. That's who your problem will start. So that's the reason why you have to discuss how are we going to split the chores. If I'm coming back from work, I go pick up the kids from daycare or wherever you're picking up the kids from. Forget you will run to grocery store, or if we're already grocery store, okay, as we're reaching home, whoever gets home first will start cooking so that we'll have something to eat. Not that somebody will say, let me cross my leg and be, forget of the house, I cannot help my wife do anything in here. So you have to sit down and you have to discuss how the chores will be split. Otherwise, hatred will start brewing in your heart. And I'm speaking to my gender, especially when it comes to this aspect. You have to voice it out and discuss that part because it is needed for even for your own well-being. You cannot go to work and then come home and then start cleaning and cooking and running after the children while your other partner is just sitting and crossing legs or he went to go and hang out with his friends. You don't want that. So that's something that you have to discuss. Like you have to sit down and say, hey, sir, if you are in the beginning stage, you guys are just engaged and you're looking at this beautiful ring and you're like, oh, he did me well, and then start doing your okay, how are we gonna do chores? And that's why, for my own advice, even though at the beginning that you can do it, still like tell him to help you from time to time so that he can get used to it. Because one thing that I have known us for us human beings, we are creatures of habit. So if at the first 3 years of the marriage he never watched the play and whatever, and then now the kids are like growing up and whatnot, and you didn't ask him to assist you, or like you guys didn't work through that, it's going to take a lot for him to want to turn around. Because at that point in time, if you married a man who, or your partner doesn't have, brain, if it doesn't have brain, at that point in time, it's going to be thinking that somebody told you that you should tell him to wash plates. So that's why things needs to start from the beginning. You have to work together from the beginning and not come in somewhere in the middle. Now, for our counterparts in Nigeria, the man doesn't even have to lift a finger. You know why? Because they are house help. And that's the reason why I would always say to the men here, if you know that that's the kind of lifestyle you want, go and work hard so that you can provide help for your wife. Then your wife won't disturb you for assistance. But if you know that you don't have the money to get help, please join us and help us with the household chores. Anyways, that's the 5 points. I'm just going to summarize just quickly. Number 1, money. If you think you are not going to fight about that, you will fight about that. Trust me. The making of it, the lack of making of it, over making it, you will talk about money. Money is the number 1 thing that people talk about in marriages. 2, children and parenting styles. If you're talking at the beginning stage, discuss the possibility of fertility issues. It's a thing. It happens in life. And if you're blessed, how many you want to have, and if you are not blessed, are you open for adoption? You discuss all those things and we won't be having too much headache during the 5. Number 3, you have to discuss your deal breaker. Sir, ma'am, what would I do? What can you do? What will I do in this marriage that will make me, make you want to divorce me? So that this is it. I will not cross it. And that's it. And number 4, communication style. And last but not least, how do you split your chores? Alright, that's it for this video. I hope that you find it helpful. Please do not forget to share to your friends and your family. For those that are in a relationship, those who are talking about getting married, those who are already married, please share them to them. These are things that are helping me and I wanted to share with my community. And last but not least, if you watched up to this moment and you are not subscribed, please, what are you doing? Hit the subscribe button. And with that, I will see you on my next one where I go ice skating. So if you want to see me subscribe, it'll be on next time. Have a good one.